Let's go. Rajni, we are dot on time. We can start.
Yeah.
Rajni, you ready?
1 second. Yeah, ready.
Yeah, okay. Let's start then. Thank you. Rajni, you can start now.
Uh, Pranams and namaskaram to Sadhguru. We feel privileged and blessed for having you here. Welcome and namaskaram from EO Coimbatore to all the attendees of South Asia from the 24 chapters and from the EO Global Fraternity. Isha is the pride of a city, and we take great privilege in hosting the event from EO Coimbatore for the 1,000+ attendees who are there, where Sadhguru will be sharing his insights on entrepreneurship in the VUCA world. VUCA being volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. My sincere gratitudes to our panelists from the global arena, the core team at EO, and the team at Isha who made this event a reality. We shall begin with a short video message by Sadhguru on the current pandemic.
Against all odds, risking their lives, they fought and the nation became free. When we talk about freedom fighters, we always speak in glorious terms. But what are we going to do as a generation? This is a question mark, because we are still alive. Now we have come with a challenge, an invisible enemy, an adversary that you cannot see, where after a few days, you start arguing with yourself. I don't think it is there, this is all a conspiracy, somebody is making money, this will happen, that will happen, already it's starting. 2 days, they want to scratch themselves, they're not able to be within their homes, so they're beginning to spill their beans of madness. So they got army on the standby. I hope they don't have to walk the streets. I hope the police force will be able to manage what they need to manage. Above all, I hope we as citizens will manage this ourselves without any force. Why I'm saying this is, how the next generation will look at us could be determined by this one segment of time, the corona time. Whether we sail through this successfully or we drove ourselves into a disaster. The estimates that world bodies are making as to what can happen if it goes out of control are too horrible even to discuss.
What we know now, that a new virus would emerge that would bring many parts of society to a standstill.
Particularly, the World Health Organization is placing this responsibility in India's hands. Till now, we have dealt with it exceptionally well, actually.
India has tremendous capacities.
But from here on, it is in the hands of the citizens. Administration is doing whatever it is doing, making financial packages, fiscal changes, but still without the cooperation of every human being who lives here, this will not work. As days go by, people could drive themselves into frustration. People could start understanding what a mess they are and they can't deal with that. When challenging times confront us, that is when who we are matters really. When everything is well, everybody is fantastic. When we say who we are, the fundamental question is just this: are we that kind of people who are always a part of the solution, or are we a part of the problem? This is all we have to decide. I have decided. I want all of you, wherever you are, in whichever part of the country or in the world, I want all of you to take this one stance right now, in these next few weeks, which are really challenging times for humanity, particularly India, that you shall be part of the solution, not part of the problem. This commitment everybody must take. This is very, very important. Namaskaram, namaskaram all of you. Wherever you are, good morning, good evening, whatever.
Namaskaram, Sadhguru.
Namaskaram, Sadhguru,
Namaskaram.
and Pranam.
Namaste.
A very, very warm welcome from our EO clan across the globe. Thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us. Before we begin, Sadhguru, I have one request, just one. And it's a whim, so please indulge me because I'm living a lifetime dream talking to you. So I want us to, for the next 1 hour, to play role play. I, which is the collective EO clan globally, is going to be the bravest army of warriors that you have ever known. We really are. And you are going to be our supreme commander. You have been a friend, you have been a philosopher, a guide to many of our generals. And now we're turning to you because we are very weary. We've been fighting a war, now we're tired, we're very weary, and we're looking to our supreme commander. So you know where I'm heading with this. You will be Parthasarthi and we will be Parth. And we will talk about this battle which is ahead of us. So if you agree to that premise, I can start with my first question.
You already fixed me, please shoot the question.
All right. So we're surrounded with negativity. We're surrounded with gloom, with despair, with loss, and for some people, just hopelessness. How do we find inspiration in times like this? How do we find energy to go on and to get up and fight yet another day?
At times like this, when you are not clear what is the way ahead, inspiration is a dangerous thing. This is like when you're driving and you're not able to see clearly, now you throttle up, that's a dangerous thing to do. This is a time to work on our clarity, not inspiration. We need clarity. We must be able to see things which we did not see earlier. We must be able to decipher the situations as they are so that we can take the next few steps, maybe slowly, maybe cautiously, so that once things are clear, we can ramp it up. So inspiration is like a throttle, it's a good thing when we know exactly what to do. Inspiration is a good thing. Right now, what is needed is not inspiration, what is needed is clarity, clarity of vision, clearly seeing what it is. Right now, let us not assume too many things. We do not know exactly… first thing is, we do not know what is the nature of this virus yet. We've only managed it by controlling human behavior. We don't know a thing about it. Every day scientists are coming with newer and newer observations about what this virus is, what it could do. So in terms of economics, in terms of business, we do not know how much damage it will cause, what kind of disruption it will bring about. Nobody has a clear estimate of what it is. Now in India, we are hoping that by July end, everything will be back, but most people are estimating by September we will be back. If by September we are full on the ground, I feel the damage is minimal, we will recover from that. Of course, there is pain for every one of us, as individual people, as leaders, as businesses, as the nation itself, and as institutions, every one of us have pain. We have to endure this. Now, normally pain with the hope that we will recover always creates an enormous amount of strength and well-being. I am not so much bothered about that. But suppose the virus lasts for a year or 18 months or 24 months, well, then it's going to change the very dynamics of our existence in many ways, as we know it. It is not that humanity is going to be wiped out or something, no, I don't see that. It is just that our activity, our commerce, our way of functioning in the world, our lifestyle, how we educate people, how we conduct almost everything could go through a major rejig. That is something we will have to really look at when situations like this confront us. This is the time, what is best in us, our intelligence, our innate genius, our resilience, our love for each other, everything, the best in us should come out at this time, because you got to be at your best to handle a situation like this. This is not a time for despair, this is not a time to be fearful, because these are all very debilitating emotions. When somebody is in fear or anxiety, they get crippled within themselves. So this is not a time to cripple ourselves, this is a time to remain at our best, because the best that we have may not be good enough if things go beyond a certain point. So we have to be at our best to somehow come on top of this situation, that is what is needed. So it is very important that leaders, people whose lives are such that what they think, what they feel, how they act in the world impact millions of people around them. When such a privilege has been placed in our hands, it is very important that we focus on upgrading ourselves all the time, because this is a tremendous privilege that in our lives, you have come to a place where if you think right, million people will benefit, if you think wrong, million people will suffer. When such a privilege is placed in your hands, you must always see how to keep yourself at your best, at your absolute best, because it's no more about yourself, because everything that you do impacts a million people. So, having said that, are there no challenges? Yes, there is a serious challenge, but it is during challenging times the best of men have risen in this world. I'm sorry, best of men and women have risen in those times, because something in a human being doesn't want to be cowed down by a challenge. Initially, there is because people are being shaken out of their comfort zones, there is fear, anxiety and certain amount of distress. But when the challenge really confronts us, that is when human beings will stand up and do the best they can and build the greatest possibilities. So I don't think this disruption is the end of the world, definitely not. But if we behave responsibly, conduct this well, we can minimize the fatalities, we can minimize the losses. Everybody's comparing this to a war. Well, if you want to see it as a war, at least nobody is bombing our homes. If we are careful, we will live through this. If we are conscious, we will live through this. Nobody is bombing our house, no soldiers in the street shooting at us. Well, it is a war, it's a very soft war, it's a virus, and fortunately, we are the carriers. If we behave responsibly, we can stop it. If we behave irresponsibly, it'll have a free run. So in many ways, this is a test of what sort of human beings we are. Let's come out and prove that we are really competent human beings, wonderful human beings. This is the time to prove it.
Thank you so much for that. So moving now from what leaders need to do, my friend Rolf from Germany, he is the co-founder of Trivago, wants to ask you something about how we manage our families. Rolf, over to you.
Namaskaram. Very nice talking to you. Thanks for taking the time. We are now locked down with our families for quite some time, nearly all of us. So how should we deal with the psychological impact, not only on ourselves, but also on our relationships? Thank you.
Most people who are successful in their lives, they barely get to spend enough time with family and friends. So why is 5 to 6 weeks such a big problem? It is not. But we are beginning to realize what we are made of. If you are made to sit in a place without nothing much to do, a whole lot of people will start spilling, psychological disorders all around them. When I say psychological disorders, it is fundamentally this. See, within a human being, we have many faculties. One significant aspect of human faculty is we have a very vivid sense of memory and a fantastic sense of imagination. These are two faculties which set us apart from every other creature. No other creature is capable of this. It is this vivid sense of memory which gives us such a rich experience of life. All other creatures spend their life just fulfilling their survival process. Human beings are able to do many other things beyond survival only because of this very vivid and rich sense of memory that we have of every little thing that happens in our lives. But right now, if you look at it, what is it that human beings suffer? What happened 10 years ago, they still suffer. They think they're suffering life. No, they're only suffering their memory. They're not suffering life. What may happen day after tomorrow, already they suffer. They think they're suffering life. No, they're suffering their imagination. Two most important faculties which qualifies to be a human being, which qualifies you to be a human being. Unfortunately, this is what human beings are largely suffering, memory and imagination. So, it is very important, at a time like this is always true, but at a time like this, it's coming home to people, what they're made of. Whatever kind of suffering people go through, either in terms of their own lack of peace and tranquility within themselves, balance, these problems of anxiety, frustrations and everything, you can call it by many names. Today, psychological disorders have 72 very exotic names attached to it. But fundamentally, it's only one thing. That is, when our intelligence turns against us, that is when we are suffering something. We can call this just anxiety, misery, madness, depression, this, that, whatever we want. Those people who are pathologically ill are a different matter. That's unfortunate, that's a different thing. But most other human beings are causing this to themselves by turning their own intelligence against themselves. If your intelligence was working for you, definitely you would keep this very pleasant and wonderful. If you were feeling very pleasant and wonderful, you will see you really have no issues with anybody. Different people are made different ways, but it is unpleasantness that happens within you which makes things really, accelerate into something else. Other people can cause unpleasant situations. They cannot cause unpleasantness within you. Other people can only, make situations happen. But how you respond to it will determine whether you become unpleasant or not. So, what happens within us when we say whatever, positive, negative, joy, misery, anxiety, agony, ecstasy, whatever it is, all human experience happens within us. What happens within us must happen our way. What is happening within ourselves is our own psychological drama. So the fundamental thing is just this, our drama is badly directed and we think somebody else is causing it. Somebody else is only causing the ambience. It is our reaction to the ambience which causes this. But relationships in a human life are important. How do we manage that? Well, one thing that everybody must remember is we have various types of relationships. There is a spouse, there is a friend, there are children, there are parents, there are business partners, there are social relationships. Every relationship we have formed this because we have needs of our own. Physical needs, psychological needs, emotional needs, financial needs, social needs, variety of needs. To fulfill our needs, we have formed relationship. But after some time, we think it is the other people who need us. That is why they are here. No, we must always see it is we need them. It is because of that we have formed relationships. When this is the thing, you will naturally give your best to the situation. Will any situation be perfect? That will never happen. Whether you're 2 people in the family or 4 in the family or 1 billion in the country, will any external situation happen 100% the way we want it? That will never happen. This is why it is important, what happens within you happens 100% your way. What happens around you will never happen your way.
Sometimes my way, sometimes your way, sometimes somebody else's way. That is the only way. The family, the society and the world will be external situations will never happen 100% our way. This is the reason why these days people are cutting off all the relationships and just have a dog. These days it's become common for people to say, well, are you married, do you have children? No, I have a dog. See, a dog is a very good solution because a dog is a 12-year guaranteed love affair. Do what you want, it'll wag its tail. You can do whatever you want to it and go to your office. When you come back in the evening, you will get a grand welcome. This your wife will not do, your children will not do, your friend will not do, your neighbor will not do, no human being will do. I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing it, dog. Well, people have been saying God is love, I don't know about that, but dog is definitely love. So, people are dumbing down their life to this. Why this is because our expectations of other people is so much, nobody else but a dog can fulfill, not even a cat. Even a cat doesn't take instructions from you, but a dog is a very loving animal. So let's understand this, we have formed relationships because of our needs, not because of somebody else's needs. If we are always conscious of it, we will do our best.
So, Sadhguru, you talked about society and connections and, the larger world. I have George Gann, who is the chairman of Clapper Technologies, my friend from the East, and he wants to ask you a question in that connection. George, over to you.
Namaskar.
Thank you. Sadhguru, greetings from EO Asia Pacific, and thank you for spending time with us today. You have started and you have framed how the coronavirus is changing the world and has created a new environment for most of us. The general consensus is the way we work and business moving forward will change permanently. My question is, do you think there will be permanent change to human nature?
George, as I said earlier, it depends how quickly we get on top of this virus situation. If in the world, let's say maximum by the end of this year, if we are completely in control of this, I don't see permanent change. Changes will happen, but not a permanent change, because people will fall back into their old ways, they will not forget their old ways so quickly. But suppose it lasts for 18 to 24 months. If it lasts for 18 to 24 months, serious disruptions would have happened. To a point, people would have forgotten how they lived 24 months ago, because it'll keep you so busy to survive, to build yourself back and to find some sense of, to make sense of what is happening around you. It will bring that level of disruption. But hopefully everybody is expecting that they will come out with some kind of a solution, treatment or vaccine by September, October, and it will be largely controlled. So if it ends within, let's say, before the fall time in the West, let's say United States is a key thing right now because it has 52,000 deaths. But there's a whole lot of people protesting on the street. They're saying, we want our freedom, liberty, First Amendment, we want, I want a haircut. All this is happening, so they have not forgotten that many people are falling dead all around them, but they want to stick to their old ways. So, you need to understand people's habits and people's way of doing things gets automized over a period of time and it gets into such a rut. As leaders of businesses, you may not be thinking like that, you may be always thinking how to make a new pathway in various things that you're creating, but that is not the way of the larger population. The larger populations fall into the rut and they're just comfortable in the rut. It doesn't matter if nothing new happens as long as some sense of security is there and it's going on. So, if the disruption is for long enough, if this virus really ravages the human population for a long period of time, when I say long, if it's over 12 to 18 months, then the changes in the way you do business, especially some of you are in tourism, if it's airlines and things like that, the changes could be quite permanent, possibly. But if it ends before in the next 3 to 4 months or within 6 months, I think things will fall back as it was, but it may take some time. It would have taken what to say, there will be enormous amount of damage, many will fall, those who survive will come out stronger, those who don't will go down, all these things will happen even in 6 months' time. But I don't think it'll change our way of functioning in the world permanently in 6 months' time, but if it lasts very long, yes, it will.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Let's just move on also to talk about economies and business. And I'm going to invite Brian, who's right in the eye of the storm. He's in New York. Brian's the ex-chairperson of EO globally, and he's the CEO of Pure Technologies. Brian, over to you.
Sadhguru Namaskaram.
Namaskaram.
And welcome to the Entrepreneurs Organization in the Americas. I've heard you say that you believe that all the resources currently exist to be able to solve the problems of the world. I happen to agree with you. The Entrepreneurs Organization has been gaining momentum in mobilizing entrepreneurs to help solve the issues that we face that are outlined by the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. We're also seeing an unprecedented level of collaboration between governments and organizations in addressing the current pandemic. How can we maintain that same level of collaboration going forward in addressing the challenges that the world faces as it relates to the UN 17 SDGs?
The Sustainable Development Goals that were set up, well, one reason why it's not happened the way it should have happened, we are moving in that direction, but not completely. Well, in India, in the last 20 years, 240 million people have been moved out of poverty. But right now, let's say this pandemic lasts for 8 months to 9 months in this country, I don't think so. Many Indian states have already gotten on top of it, so it will not last. But suppose it does, we may be pushing this 200 million plus people back below poverty line in just a matter of 12 months. What took us 20 years to get them out of, we may push them back there within 12 months' time, because that's a level of disruption that will happen. So having said that, it is also important that we have to look at this time, all the leaders, not just political and national leaders, but business leaders have to look at how to make business long-term sustainable, because after all, we are just here as human beings, we are mortal, we are just here for a brief amount of time on this planet. This is not ours forever, it is the next generations who will have to live here. What are we leaving behind must be a constant thought in our mind, and we must be conscious of it. Having said that, right now, the way business is happening and the way we are moving, or the way the national budgets and economies are being planned, is all about more and more. What is the GDP growth? Well, if somebody says 6%, somebody says 8%, somebody says 10%, if it's 10%, which we were dreaming of just a few months ago in this country, in 10 years' time, we will be double of what we are. So double consumption, double everything, all right? So this growth-oriented model, this thought process itself needs to change if we really want to fulfill the Sustainable Development Goals. But we have not come up with an alternative thought process. Okay, how do we benchmark success without growth? That is not something that we have even given enough thought to, we've not figured out how to do that. We are only thinking as long as we are growing. And growth is not an endless process, because planet is not an endless process either. So having said that, for 7.6 billion people, well, some of the Living Earth statistics says to provide what an average American has, if we have to provide for all the 7 billion plus people, we will need 4.5 planets. Well, why I'm taking America as an example is, in many ways America has become an aspiration. People may not consciously articulate this, but everywhere, every business, whatever they're talking, every individual human being, whatever they're talking, America has become the aspiration for everybody as an ideal level of economic well-being. It is not by accident that if you today go into any urban center in India, if you look at people below their knees, nearly 60% of them are wearing blue denims. This is a strong statement, America is our goal. And it's also torn at the knees, so 100% it's American. So, if everybody aspires for this, it's not going to work. This kind of module was only possible when economies were imperialist, that you took something from one place and made another place rich and well. That is gone. Now every human being on the planet has an aspiration of their own. If all of us aspire for the same thing, there is no way it can happen. Either we must control the populations over a period of time, because at the beginning of 20th century, we were only 1.6 billion people. Today we are inching towards 8 billion people. So, by 2050 they're saying we could be near 10 billion mark. At 10 billion people, if all of us aspire for this, I don't think planet has much of a chance. It is not that planet is in peril, planet has a way to rejuvenate itself. Human life as we know it can get hit very badly. So either we do this consciously, either consciously we slow down our reproduction and our productivity on the planet, both. I'm going to say something extreme, I'm not against business, I'm a very for business person, but this is something we need to think of now that disruption has come. See, right now, what I see is, just in India I'm saying, among the people that I move, more than 85 to 90% of the people that I see today are all carrying the latest model of the phone. They're all carrying iPhone 10 or whatever Galaxy, what is this, 10, 12, whatever it's happened, all right, the Samsung. Nobody is carrying even a 2-year-old phone. Everybody has the latest phone. So every 1 year, every time a new model comes, almost everybody is buying. What happens to the old one? Nobody wants to give the old phone to somebody because they're afraid something may be left, it is just kept at home or it goes into the bin, because nobody wants to share their phone with somebody. So somewhere we have to come to this. I'm going to say something extreme, please excuse me. I've been thinking through this afternoon because I was talking to another group. If we don't do this now, we will never do this. This virus is a terrible thing, but if we want to use it as a blessing, there is a way. We have to come to this. Maybe we'll have to make laws that if you buy a phone, you must use it for 4 years. If you buy a car, you must use it for 8 years. There is no way you can discard it. You will not be given a second phone less than 4 years. This may sound extreme, but if we don't do this, now in the beginning of 21st century, the closing part of 21st century is going to be a mega disaster for the next generation of people, or even much earlier. By 2050, we could be in serious issues. Forget about sustainable development goals of providing everything for everybody. Well, keeping basic balance and surviving itself may become a huge challenge. If we want to really, if we are serious about sustainable development goals, one thing is investments have to spread out. Right now, investment is all focused, they tell me, please correct me if I'm not right on the numbers, I don't remember the number. When I was at the Economic Forum, somebody was telling me, over 70% of the world's investment is in some 32 cities or something like that. Am I correct? Or maybe I'm totally off? But whichever way, investments are too focused in a few places. So everybody naturally trying to move there. It is estimated 1.6 billion people will migrate in the next 10 years. In India, it's estimated 220 million people will migrate. Which city can handle this kind of inflow of people? Can you provide a decent level of living for people who come like this? If you go to Mumbai, any city in the country, if you go and see the level of life that's happening in the slum area, it's inhuman. It's literally inhuman. That's how people are living. When they lived on their land, they may not have had money, but at least there was some dignity of life. Everything is lost, especially for women and children. It is a horror. Migration is a horror for women and children because their life gets really, really bad. So 1.6 billion people, that was the population of this world in the early 20th century. That many people are going to migrate, leaving their natural habitats and going somewhere else. If you want to stop this, investment in the world has to spread. I've been trying to talk to prominent groups of people. Now that I'm with EO, let me put this thought to you, see if we can fulfill this in some way. I talked about doing a kind of a fund. Let's say 1% of the defense budget of all the countries goes into a fund which is managed by very responsible, trusted people in the world, and responsible businesses are given soft loans. Right now, one reason why people will not invest in impoverished societies is because money is expensive. You can't put such an expensive thing in a place where the returns are very slow. Nobody wants to invest there. Everybody would like to invest where the returns are quick. So if returns are very slow, you must give them a gestation period of 12, 15 years, maybe first 5 years interest free, this, that, whatever is needed, and make sure that inexpensive money is available for responsible businesses who will commit to start business and industry in impoverished areas. Only if you do this, you can retain people in their natural habitats. If investment comes into this in the form of agriculture, in the form of industry, in the form of various levels of commerce, only when it comes, you can keep the people there. Otherwise, the horrific situation would be, let us say in 100 years' time, maybe 50% of the world's population will try to move into these 30, 40 cities in the world. You can imagine what a mess it will be, because that's everybody's aspiration. Now, I think this virus has brought this, no, nobody wants to go to New York City at least. So, this is a good time that to tell people and to create opportunities for people where they are. If we do not create opportunities for people where they are, this pile-up of human beings in one place will happen, and that will be bad for us and very good for virus, as you're seeing. Wherever there are concentration of populations, that is where the pandemic is really having a dance of it. See, in rural India, it's hardly there, simply because there is natural social distancing all the time. In urban centers, it's going berserk, simply because there is too much concentration of population. This concentration of population is a consequence of concentration of investments.
Thank you for that. That's very enlightening, Sadhguru, because I think it's given a lot of us a lot to think about. Want you to sort of take a step forward, and George has a question about the future and the future of business. So, George, over to you.
Thank you. Sadhguru, many business leaders are very focused right now resolving current issues and minimizing damages and losses. However, there are many EO members that are keeping their eyes slightly higher and seeking new opportunities. My question is, can you predict 2 new industry or businesses that will emerge because of this pandemic crisis? So it's just a prediction.
Well, one unfortunate development could be arms and ammunition sales will go up tremendously, because now those who are doing well would like to protect what they have. It's happened in United States. In California, the gun sales has gone up heavily because of the virus. Everybody's buying guns because now they understand when people have nothing to eat, they may enter their homes. They may grab something whatever little they have. So this will happen between societies, between nations. I hope it doesn't go there, but that is one immediate development that could happen. I'm saying this being conscious that right now, many nations, including India, wanting to go into privatized military productions because there is so much market and sale for that. Well, that is one development. I feel agro-related industry could take off in a big way, but we need to push this. But if we push this well, because food, once people taste a little bit of food scarcity, they will become very conscious about how food should be organized. If let us say every family in the country just went without food just for 1 day, just for 1 day, you saw your children without food for just a single day, even if you had the money, there was no food in the market, suppose that happened, you will see food industry will become very, very important, not necessarily in terms of processing and packaging like that. Agriculture and agro-based related activities could become very important, which is a very positive thing to happen, that needs to happen in the world. Because only when that happens, people will stay on the land, otherwise they won't stay on the land, they will try to move somewhere else. Well, the other thing is, technology could become very big because right now everybody is talking about working from home. Those who go through a phase of working from home for 6 months, once they overcome their domestic troubles, whatever they have, I think they wouldn't want to go to office, they will enjoy working from home at their own time, in their own way, still probably being more productive than going to the office. And the commuting, in most cities, particularly in India, going to work is quite a circus, it's a daily circus. Let's say in a city like Bangalore, if you have to reach from one place to another, it is not a joke, it needs enormous skill to get there. So this 1.5 hours up and 1.5 hours down, 3 hours on a polluted street, breathing everybody's exhaust smoke, if that goes away, once you understand the peace and quiet from which you can work, well, technology becomes very, very important. Reach of the bandwidth becomes important, so telecommunications becomes very important. I feel there is going to be a huge, massive upsurge in the need for telecommunications and data delivery, because one important thing that could get seriously disrupted, apart from, of course, tourism, which may come back after some time, but one thing which could go for a toss in a big way is education. If people are in education as a business, this could take a big, not necessarily a hit, but a change. This whole idea of children or students coming and congregating to one building to learn something, this idea may completely evaporate. Already it was moving in this direction with the advent of artificial intelligence, because right now our schools are run on just this. The only thing is, somebody has read a book that you have not read, that's a teacher. And you have not read that book, and that person goes on talking to you about that book. Instead of teaching you how you could read and understand that by yourself, 10 years goes on, they telling you the book that they have read to you. I'm making it a little simplistic, but I'm saying fundamentally, transmission of information is all that's largely happening in educational institutions. These kind of educational institutions were anyway on the way out with advent of artificial intelligence. But the virus has brought a much kind of haste to that process. We were all thinking this will happen in 10-15 years' time, but it looks like it's become immediate, that right now the schools in India are supposed to start first week of June. I don't think any school is going to open first week of June. Parents will not send their children to school. How long is the question? Suppose they stay out for 6 months and they work out ways for their children to study at home, a whole lot of things will change. So education industry is going to change in a massive way unless we innovate in a very significant way, for which we need bandwidth, data delivery and telecommunications and technology. So that could be a massive push. I would say those who are in that segment of business, in next 5 years' time, there could be anywhere between 500 to 1000% growth. 5 times or 10 times over, it needs to happen Because if you want to deliver education on technology platforms, if you want to deliver all services and technology platforms, you will need a tenfold growth and it will definitely happen.
Thank you.
So, Sadhguru, we're going to move back from talking about business and society and, coming back and focusing on self.
Oh, I'm glad we're coming to the human being.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to ask Rolf to ask you a question that I've just gotten from him. Rolf, over to you.
Yeah, you said in the very beginning, you spoke about the fact that we are now living in times to gain clarity, and I could not agree more. But that's not easy, right? So, I mean, there's so much information out there. Everybody seems to have the truth. I really doubt that somebody has it right now. So how do you manage that personally, you yourself? So how do you manage to with all this diverging information, on one side, not jumping to conclusions, but on the other side, also not, be in a stale mode, and, how do you keep on moving? How do you keep on moving? How do you keep on making decisions, even at this high uncertainty? Thank you.
You're asking me personally?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, see, with me, it's like this, that what happens tomorrow, whatever it is, pleasant or unpleasant things happen around us, or what happens today, pleasant or unpleasant things, does not make me any different. Because I made myself like this, that the way I am is not determined by anything that's around me. Or in other words, I have not given this privilege to anybody that they can make me happy, they can make me unhappy, they can make me disturbed, they can bring peace to me. I have not given this privilege, I kept these privileges with myself. Because this is a choice that all human beings have, that see, every human being wants to be well. What is being well? We want to be healthy, we want to be happy, we want to be peaceful, and we want to function at our best, whatever that is, in whatever we are doing. Well, this can only happen if the controls are inside. That is, you are a self-start machine. That is, you wake up in the morning, you're joyful by your own nature, not because of something that's happening around you. If your happiness, your peace, your loving nature, or your anything, or even your competence is determined by what's happening around you, well, you will become very accidental in your existence. Anybody and everybody can determine how you will be. Once you leave it in the hands of other people, you being really well is a very questionable thing. Very, very questionable thing, and it'll be very accidental. Once we're accidental in our existence, becoming anxious is natural. Well, in the next few months or in the next 1 year, well, we are hoping it won't happen, but it is very much possible. Everything that we know as stability could be upside down, it's very much possible. May not go that way, we are all striving to see it doesn't go that way, but in case it goes that way also, still we must be well, because we must understand this. Even during the… even a caveman, even he knew joy, he knew peace, he did not have an automobile, he did not have a home, he did not have a phone or a technology, but even he was joyful, peaceful, he was also stressful here and there, whatever. So I am saying, the situation in terms of human experience is the same, nothing changes. It is only external situations changing. See, today whatever we are used to, let us say a cell phone. When we were growing up, there was no phone and we lived quite well. Today if the phone goes missing, oof, it's finished It's almost like life is gone, all right? So, we get used to certain things and we think that is life. No, we must understand, we gather many things. What we gather should serve us, should not dominate us. That includes our body and our mind. Even this body we gathered over a period of time. Even the content of the mind we gathered over a period of time. Right now the problem is just this. People have lost the distinction between what is me and what is mine. What is me and what belongs to me, this distinction has been lost. This distinction has to come. Rolf, if I can take the liberty of suggesting, there is a simple process called a Isha Kriya. It is free downloadable, it's available on our app and everything. This is a simple process to bring a little distance between yourself and your accumulated body, yourself and the accumulation of the mind. Once there is a distance between you and your physiological process and your psychological process, believe me, this is the end of suffering, because there are only two kinds of suffering in human life, physical suffering and mental suffering. Do you know any other kind of suffering? There is no other kind of suffering. Once you bring a little bit of space between yourself and these two aspects of life, this is the end of suffering. You can manage your body and mind to the best of your ability, and you will manage the outside world once again to the best of your ability. Do we know everything as to what's going to happen around us in the next few months? We do not know. We do not even know what will happen around us in the next 4 minutes, actually that's a fact, all right? So, this virus is going to upturn many things, but this is better than World War II when they were bombing your house and they were shooting at you. This is better than that. If you remain little sensible, you can keep the virus away, and business and economic activity, we can see how to build back. We have built from nothing to here, right? From being a caveman, we've come here. What is the problem? If we take a few steps backward, we will again do it, and it may not be really backward step, because every other creature on the planet it looks like they are making like an election slogan, let's make the planet great again. They think we are gone. I see all over the place, birds, animals, everything on the streets, because they are all making a slogan, let's make the planet great again, human beings are gone. They don't know we are under lockdown.
So this is, I have to say that it's been just so inspiring. And Brian wanted to talk to you, and he wanted to specifically ask questions about, you talked right now about our mental health and our mental well-being. He wants to focus and ask you questions about physical health. Brian, over to you.
Yeah, great, thank you. There's quite a bit of stress and anxiety that is surfacing more than even usual right now in times of uncertainty and crises. And I have a growing concern that we do have a very present pandemic, but that I'm curious what your perspective is around the long-term health effects of the increased levels of stress and anxiety that exist right now.
See, as you know, constantly you're dealing with people, so you definitely know this and you see this. In United States, some of the studies say 70% of the people say they hate their work, not dislike their work, they hate their work. If you have to live with something for 5 days in a week that you absolutely hate, it must be a real torture, To be with something or somebody that you hate constantly is the worst thing that you can do in your life. But unfortunately, 70% of the people seem to be doing that. So that is why this whole culture of thank God it's Friday. But now it is Friday for 6 weeks, and what is it that people are complaining about? Now they realize the problem was not work, problem is family. No, problem is not family, problem is not work, problem is the state of your own mind. So if you're at work, you think it's work that is causing stress to you. If you're at home, you think it's home that's causing stress to you. Let us fire you from both the places. You get fired from your job, you get fired from your home. Be just outside and be joyful. You think it'll happen? So the problem is that we have not done anything in our education systems, the way societies are bringing up their children, we have done nothing about the inner well-being of the human being. When I say inner well-being, there are many dimensions to this. The simplest surface is just this: your body and your mind should work for you always. What you're calling as anxiety, misery, tension is your own intelligence working against you. Your psychological work, the works that you have in the form of your psychological drama is playing against you. It's your drama, you're supposed to direct it. But just about anything is happening because this has become a very a compulsive reaction to life. This is not a conscious way of living. So this is if one is interested in long term, we must see first of all how to engineer ourselves to be fit enough to live in this world. Right now we can complain about the world. Suppose we roll back 10,000 years for you and you're living in a jungle and every day you have to hunt and get some animal. Today all the animals are faster than you and nothing happened. Again you'll be stressed. At least now once a month you're getting a salary or whatever, but you're stressed for that. Now you may lose your job, you're stressed for that. I'm saying forever we have lived for thousands of years without a job and we did well even then. But those who were stressful and miserable, they were. Those who were joyful and well, they were. The difference is only, did you manage yourself well or not? We will try to manage the outside situations to the best of our ability. No two human beings can manage the outside to the same extent. How you manage things, I may not be able to do. How I manage things in the world, you may not be able to do, because this is a question of many forces are involved in managing the outside situation. There is no magic wand for that. But how we manage our interiority, this science is completely missing. It is for this reason that we are trying to push this into everybody's lives, this inner engineering. Right now in the lockdown, probably a few 100,000 people are going through this inner engineering online, at their own homes they can go through. Because if you just manage your psychological, emotional and physiological responses to what's happening around you well, you will see living here peacefully and joyfully is not a problem. Being successful in the world is another matter. To put this in a certain context, see, if I ask any human being, do you want to be healthy? Of course they want to be healthy. What does health mean? Pleasantness on the level of body. Body is pleasant, this is called health. If it becomes very pleasant, we call this pleasure. If mind is pleasant, we call this peace. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it joy. If your emotions become pleasant, we call this love. If it becomes very pleasant, we call this compassion. If our very life energies become pleasant, we call this blissfulness. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it ecstasy. If our surroundings become pleasant, we call this success. Only to create pleasantness in our surroundings, we need the cooperation of many forces around us. But to create the pleasantness of body, pleasantness of mind, emotion and energy, it is 100% our business. The problem is just this, that we have been given the most sophisticated machine on the planet. This human mechanism is the most sophisticated technology on the planet. I'm sure you agree with me on that one. But have you read the user's manual? Such a sophisticated machine, people are trying to blunder through without even paying basic attention to how it functions. This is the basis of human suffering, not coronavirus, not job loss, not this, not that. The basic suffering is we have not even looked at the user's manual of how to manage this machine.
So, Sadhguru, I mean, yes, absolutely, 100% in agreement. I am getting bombarded with questions because we're running out of time, and there is one question that has come up repeatedly on the chat, and that is the difficulty that people are having today to resolve between the head and the heart. You know, you have to take tough decisions, and those tough decisions may affect other people's lives. People are unable to pay salaries, they're shutting down businesses, and that's necessary to do. But, you know, the fact is it's affecting the livelihood of so many other people. And a lot of leaders, a lot of business leaders, they're not being able to resolve this conflict. They don't know what is right, what is the right thing to do. So would you throw some light on this?
Well, tough times will compel us to take very tough decisions, unfortunately. As you know, it's happening in the world. In India, still, hospitals are not inundated with patients. In Italy, in Spain, it happened. In UK and United States, it's beginning to happen. Now suppose me and my mother got infected with virus, the doctor has to take a call, who should get the ventilator? In some places, they're taking lots. In most other places, they're deciding on the age. That means they will give it to me and let my mother die. How difficult it is for the doctor to live with that, and how difficult is it going to be for me to live with that decision. But suppose it is between me and my daughter, then they'll give it to her and let me die. So these kind of horrific decisions we will have to make in extreme situations. But this is the choice we have. Either when life really rubs ugly things into our faces, which is what this is in a way, either we can come out wounded or we come out wise. This is all the choice we have. We have no choice about not facing the situation. The situation is there, inevitably we have to face it. Will we face it in such a way that we will come out wise and wonderful, or will we come out wounded out of this? This is a choice we have and we must exercise responsibly.
Thank you for that. I'm also being told that we're running out of time, so I'm going to ask you the last question. I read a book recently, and it was a book called The One Thing. And the philosophy of the book was that if you do one thing right, it has a domino effect on everything else in your life. So I'm going to ask you that what advice would you give us as leaders, people running organizations and influencing the lives, like you said, of millions? What is the one thing that we must do in times like this, and we must follow through?
Not only in times like this, in any time, the only one thing that you have to do well is you conduct this life really well. When I say this life, I'm not talking about just this body, this personality, whatever we need, not like that. This life, if you conduct it really well, you will conduct everything absolutely well. Because the moment you experience yourself beyond the limitations of the identities that you've taken on, as well, identities start in many ways, maybe of race, religion, nationality, communities, caste, creed, gender, our own physical body, our thoughts, emotions, our ideologies, philosophies, whatever else we believe in and disbelieve in. If you go beyond that and touch the basic life process, in this there is an all-inclusive nature. In your very breath, it is telling you, what you exhale, the trees are inhaling, what they exhale, you're inhaling. The very life process is inclusive. So if you conduct this life properly, really well, believe me, you will use everything that you have to your fullest. That means your physical prowess, your mental prowess, your emotional prowess, your energy strength that you have, you will do the best that you can do. And as human beings, this is all we can do. That in our lives, if we do not do what we cannot do, there is no problem. But in our lives, if we do not do what we can do, we are a disastrous life. So our only goal is that we do not become a disastrous life. Everything that we can do, we have done. What we cannot do, that's how it is, all right? So if we have to do everything that we can do, you should never be an issue in your life. This one thing everybody must do. You are not the issue. There are 1,000 issues in our life. In your life circumstances, if there are no issues, it simply means you're not doing a thing in your life. If you're doing a lot of things, there are lots of issues every day, but you are never the issue. This one thing, if you make sure that you are not the issue, you will become part of the solution wherever you go.
Thank you so much for that. I think that a lot of these warriors, our EO warriors, are now going to be EO philosophers. So thank you for inspiring us, for igniting our minds, for stirring our souls, for just inspiring so much curiosity of what can be done and what must be done. Thank you so much again, Sadhguru.
Hey, what happened to the job you gave me in the beginning? You took it back?
No, no. I'm going to say, I am going to say, Parth is saying thank you to Parthasarthi. You have made a dream come true for me. Thank you so much. Thank you so much on behalf of my entire EO tribe everywhere in the world.
Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you very much, the panel and every one of you who is online right now. Thank you.